everyone. We're going to start our regular meeting of June 4th. It is 9:01. Please call roll.
Commissioner Fambro.
Present.
Commissioner Romero.
Present.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Present.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Present. Now, if we could please stand, we will have the inspirational devotion by Christy Gonzalez, pastor of the Harvest Church of Tufts.
Good morning, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together here. God, we thank you because you are our creator, our sustainer, our friend. We thank you that your peace is extended to all who gathered here and all who accept it. We thank you for your love that endures forever. We thank you for this special meeting here this morning and all who are here. Lord, we come to you with heavy hearts this morning for Mayor Gallegos, his family, and the passing away of Juanes Gallegos, our former mayor of Cuesta. Lord, we ask that you would comfort the family and bring them peace, bring them sustaining strength, and help them to overcome this time in their lives, Lord, with peace and comfort, and knowing that your hand is upon them and with them. Lord, I pray for all the concerns and the cares of the family and friends, and just ask that you show them how to show their love and demonstrate their care to this family. Lord, I thank you for all who are in this room who have the ability to make decisions for our county. I pray for every commissioner this morning that you would just give them insight. Lord, remind them of the special abilities and gifts that you give into each of them. Remind them that they are all skilled and talented, and that they're able to do what you've placed them in this position to do. I thank you for their hearts of service for our county, and I just pray your blessing upon all their decision making. We ask that the financing happens for all that they need to be done in this county, Lord. We seek the peace and the prosperity of this county. We trust you to do it. And we pray for the family and friends who support all those in office who support our county and who serve it faithfully. I ask that you give them that support system, Lord, that they're able to do this without unnecessary stress and unnecessary burden, God. We ask for Taos County to prosper and to be the first and leading in our state in education and safe streets and a safe place, God. We believe you for that. We place the dreams and hopes of this county in your hands, and we ask that your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen.
And if we could please remain standing for Lawrence Gallegos. He was born 1987 to 1992, and he was a commissioner between 1987 and 1992, and he was also a Vietnam vet along in the silence. Thank you. Ms. Ana Martinez, would you do this in the pledge?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 5 is approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion to approve the agenda is presented. I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Please call.
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes. Item 6 is awards and recognition and new hires for the month of May 2019.
Chair, we have to move on to the rest of it. Sorry, Madam Chair, we have to move on to the rest of the agenda item.
All right. Would you like this to be tabled or postponed?
We could table it.
All right. Motion to table item A.
Motion to table. Two unspecified time. Second.
Motion has been made, second, to table item A. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes. Item B is a presentation recognizing Deputy Joey Graves on successfully graduating Law Enforcement Academy and becoming a Taos County Sheriff's Deputy. Our Sheriff, Jerry Miller.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Manager Harville. Thank you for this opportunity, and it is my pleasure today to introduce Joey Graves again to the Commission. He did successfully graduate the New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy on May 15th. He was hired, I believe, September 10th of last year. He's on the fast track now. He's in the field training program that we have created within the Sheriff's Office. And he's doing a fabulous job in that. Along with that comes some pop quizzes along the way, some verbal, some written. Deputy Graves has actually passed those written tests with 100%, an unprecedented accomplishment for us. We're very proud of him, and more to come from this great man. He's here today with his wife and his son, who will be doing the pinning of his badge. If I can see the badge for just a moment. Deputy Graves, this badge is merely a symbol of the oath that you have taken to uphold the law fairly and equally. It is a symbol that you wear for integrity, for courage, and to always do the right thing. And I know that you will always wear this with pride, integrity, and never do anything to tarnish the image of the badge, the Sheriff's Office, or the County of Taos. So I give this to your family to pin you, if you want to just take a step up front.
As the sheriff said, I did graduate from the police academy. It was the hardest 16 weeks of my life. They pushed me to the limits. Sometimes, some days I didn't even want to get out of bed. But I made it through with my son and my wife supporting me. And I want to thank you for entrusting me with this duty. I won't let you guys down. I'm here to serve Taos. And I hope to have a long career with the Sheriff's Department. Again, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say, Mr. Graves, God bless you and keep you and your family safe. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Sheriff, would you like us to take this?
Yes, I'd like to capitalize on this and have the commission join us down front for a photograph opportunity.
Or you can stand on the steps.
I'll give her a check.
time, please stand and state your name.
I'm Officer Angel Martinez. My mother, Ana Martinez.
Thank you for being here. And then could we please have an introduction of our sitting county attorney?
Madam Chair, this is Carl Bennett from Roblesville, Illinois.
All right, moving on to item C, presentation recognizing Joanne Cabanas on graduating from the Mexico Law Enforcement Academy Telecommunicators class number 143 on May 3rd, 2019, and becoming a certified dispatcher telecommunicator.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Mr. O'Neill, Representative from the attorney. Darian graduated from the dispatcher class, telecommunicator class, on May the 3rd. Just to give you a little bit of background, Darian she's born and raised in Taos. She's been here her entire life, and I'm very proud she graduated from the academy and came back certified. Just to give you a little bit of background, also in December, dispatch will be here 5 years, part of Taos County. And when I took over as director in March of 2016, or 15, we had 6 dispatchers at the time that we worked. We now currently are at 14 certified. And I want to thank the commission, our county manager, the constituents of Taos County to allow us to get to that point. We now pretty much have 3 dispatchers on duty at all times, every shift. One that's dedicated to fire, and then the other 2 that are dedicated to medical and law enforcement. So I just want to thank the commission because it's been a long road, but having 14 certified dispatchers is a pretty big step for us, and we're happy there. We're averaging right about 120,000 telephone calls into our center a year. So we are busier, we're busier all the time, and like Lori says all the time, we're the silent heroes, the unsung heroes. We're the voice behind the mic that nobody sees their face, but we brought Darian down today to meet her, so you know who she is. And just wanted to congratulate her and let you guys know where we're at. And we also have some flowers.
To expand on what Don said, reason commission for the dedicated fire dispatch, that's an ISO requirement in order to lower his ISO rating. ISO is not just for the fire department, it's also for dispatch. So that's the reason that he's in compliance with that. Thank you, Don.
You can just stand up and see that. Now we can see. And we have to walk all the way down.
Moving on to item 7, Citizens Forum. Do we have anyone who would like to speak to the commission?
Not for.
Mr. Figueroa?
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell, other commissioners, county manager, county attorney. My name is Paul Figueroa. I'm here today to inform you that there are a number of tenants from the Old County Courthouse present as you begin to address item, I believe it is 9A on your agenda. We look forward to that presentation and the opportunity to respond to that presentation in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh. All state your name, please, and please speak up.
Notice Diaz, Stevens Hall. This is a copy of the Civic Plus contract. You folks can look at it.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Top of the homepage of the county's website, a green banner bears the invitation to create an account, increase your productivity, customize your experience, and engage in information you care about, end quote. If you click on the words, that is, choose the words, create an account, the page pops up, superimposed on the county's homepage, which is the form for creating an account if one chooses to do so. The internet address at the top of that page is www.taoscounty.org/myaccount/profile-create with some other gibberish after that. On that page, the word "we" appears 26 times. I assume that "we" means this community with you as commissioners acting on behalf of the "we." On page 3 and 6 of the contract, and that the contract is very strange. It is oddly laid out. There's section 1 of 6 pages, another 4 pages, and then there's some contact information at the end. But in any event, on page 3 of 6 of the contract with Icon Incorporated doing business as Civic Plus Incorporated, number 18 says, quote, the client, that's us, you and me in the community, client agrees that it is solely responsible for any solicitation, collection, storage, or other use of end users' personal data on the website. Client further agrees that Civic Plus has no responsibility for the use or storage of end users' personal data in connection with the website or the consequences of the solicitation, collection, storage, or other use by a client or by any third-party personal data, end quote. So that's us, that's you folks. Later on that same page in which an account is created if you want to, under browser-level information and IP addresses, this is reading directly off the website and the page that pops up. Our web server automatically collects limited information. That's us, our web server automatically collects limited information about your computer, that's whoever's using it, your computer configuration when you visit our website, including the type of browser you use, the operating system you are running, the resolution of your computer monitor, the website that refers you, and your IP address. Your IP address is the number that is used by computers connected with the internet to identify your computer so that data such as the web pages you want to view can be transmitted to you. We use IP address information for systems administration and troubleshooting purposes. I don't know what systems administration means. I have some basic idea. There's no definition for systems administration or troubleshooting purposes with regard to gathering information. It goes on to say, the purpose of our interactive modules is to obtain suggestions, ideas, and feedback to benefit our community. You can do that with email. Please avoid personal attacks, slurs, and profanity in your interactions. Please make sure that your postings are relevant to the subject at hand. It is normal and expected for some topics to drift from the stated subject. However, to ensure maximum benefit for all of our users, we encourage you to keep your postings as close to the subject as possible. Impersonating a government employee or another user is not allowed. You're not allowed behavior or content related to legal activities. Who decides? Do not post or promote any materials that could spam, harm, or disrupt another user's computer. My concern is the gathering of this information. This to me clearly indicates that it's the community is doing this. Now, whether it's some mundane event or some mundane gathering, I don't care. I want to know about it. I want to know how it's done, when it's done, who does it, who are the systems administrators. It's all about language. It's about a mutual understanding of the words we use to communicate with one another. Wendell Berry, in his essay, Standing by the Word, says, and I'm quoting now, 2 epidemic illnesses of our time, upon both of which virtual industries of cures have been founded, are the disintegration of communities and the disintegration of persons. That these two are related is clear enough. What seems not so well understood because not so much examined is the relation between these disintegrations and the disintegration of language. My impression is we have seen for perhaps 150 years, this was written 40 years ago, so now it's 190 years.
Sure, that's 500.
Please wrap it up. 10 seconds.
Eight. I can't do it in 10 seconds. Again, it's important that we understand, as far as I'm concerned, the language that we're using, and I think it's important that this information be relayed to the community. I'll put my questions in writing, and I hope that you will reply in writing, not as a group, not as a group understanding, not as a survey monkey, something like I want your individual responses as a neighbor, as people in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak for Citizens Forum?
Good morning. My name is Carl Colonius. I'm here today representing the Enchanted Circle Trail Association. I'm here as an appetizer for the main course that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm hopefully going to be on the agenda for the June 17th meeting. And I wanted to let you know that I'm sending you all an email today with some preparatory materials. And I'd make myself available for any one-to-one conversations in the next 2 weeks. If you have any questions about the relationship between the Enchanted Circle Trail Association and Taos County. And I'll go into just a couple of things. The Enchanted Circle Trail Association founded to develop, maintain, and promote a regional trail system. In our efforts, we've got a couple of events coming up. I've got some flyers for you. I would appreciate it if you would help spread those around through your personal networks. We're doing a trail master training this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, up at Taos Ski Valley. This is a free trail maintenance training to increase the expertise of community volunteers to help maintain our system trails. And then the following week on the 15th, we have a trail stewardship event. We're inviting the community at large to come out and join us in doing some trail maintenance work throughout the system. We have 2 significant projects going on, the more the merrier. So if any folks have any questions, I'm happy to answer those now. And if you've got any follow-up on the email that you're going to receive in about 10 minutes, I'd appreciate that.
Specific projects.
Sure.
What are they?
So we're going to be working on the Taos Valley Overlook system in partnership with the Bureau of Land Management. The Enchanted Circle Trail Association has just completed a remapping of Taos Valley Overlook trails, and we're going to be closing down several kind of older roads that are duplicating the trail system that was constructed. There are several sections that are too steep, that are constantly eroding. We're going to be closing those down and completing the reroutes. And then general trail maintenance. As the BLM doesn't have the staff capacity to do their recreational trail maintenance, that would be part of the effort. The other project would be the South Boundary Trail, our epic mountain bike and hiking route. There's about 40 trees that are down on that trail, and we'll be mobilizing both mountain bikers and hikers with hand tools to go and move those down to trees on the 15th.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Moving on to item 8, the minutes. May I entertain a motion for the approval of the May 20th, 2019 special minutes.
So, sure. Second.
Been a motion and a second. Clerk call.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes, item D, approval of the May 21st, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please call roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
And item C is approval of the May 28th, 2019 special meeting minutes.
Move for approval.
Second. And a motion and a second. Please call roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes. Moving on.
I just wanted to thank our county clerk, Deputy Valerie, and the staff for doing such a great job with the minutes. I'll remember the days when those minutes previous administrations would take forever to look at, to get approved, and they're able to turn them over within just a week or so. Really appreciate that, and all the dedication and all the experience you guys have in your positions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll let Tammy know.
All right, now we're going on to presentations. Item A is update on the historic courthouse renovations, tenant relocations, and concerns. And we'll have Richard Sanchez, project manager, begin, and then introduce architects.
Commissioner Donald, Commissioners, today, basically, I want to give you an overview of the project, where it's at, big picture numbers, some details. I don't want to go into the construction details and that kind of stuff. This is more regarding tenants, what this phase of the project will be, kind of overall budget, estimated budget. If there are any technical questions that I can't answer, Mr. Roy Woods and Martin Salvin, or Connor Woods, who is our design team, are here to answer any technical questions. And if you have any quick questions to start off with, then we'll start. Commissioner, so Taos Historic County Courthouse. This project is a long time coming. The overall expense on this project, the overall budget, is probably going to be between $3.5 million and $4.5 million. Right now, we have a CDBG grant for $750,000 along with the match, which puts us at $830,000 or $850,000. And then Commission has dedicated an additional $500,000. So for this particular phase of the project, we have $1.3 million exclusive or inclusive of gross receipts tax, exclusive of design fees. We have some additional funding that we have separate for design fees. Right now, our drawings are biddable. They are at the Department of Cultural Affairs in Santa Fe getting reviews for historical review and make sure everything's okay. We've met over the past year with New Mexico CID, Untitled Fire Department, just about everybody involved. So the project is just about ready to actually put out to bid. This project will also, it will be one contractor, two contracts, because the funding source is similar to what we did here at the complex. We have USDA loan, we have money from the state. This phase of the project, we have general town money and CDBG money. The CDBG has real stringent requirements for the documentation and everything. So we'll have one contractor, two contracts, two bid lots on this particular phase of the construction. What I want everybody to understand is that with $1.3 million, it seems like a lot. The focus of this phase of the construction really is going to be ADA and a little bit of life safety. The CDBG grant is strictly for ADA compliance issues. The historic courthouse has been the Department of Justice report requiring ADA upgrades. One of the most significant part of the courthouse, the courtroom with the murals and everything, is not accessible to mobility impaired people. We also don't have public restrooms, and so that's really the focus of this construction, and the CDBG grant is strictly for ADA compliance. That being said, part of this construction, the demolition and reconstruction, let me move on to the second slide, because I want to give you an idea of what's going to, the biggest visual impacts on the plaza, and then we'll get into a little bit of the details. So this is a picture of the historic courthouse taken from the gazebo. You can see the west alley, we have some small buildings, we have the lower roofs and stuff. You really can't see into the east alley. You can't see the monitor part, which is the high part above the This next picture I'm going to show you is the new elevations of the historic courthouse. After the elevator tower goes in, you can see that highlighted in red, and also there's a mechanical screen. That mechanical screen there looks extremely high. It is going to be 9 feet tall, which is a little bit higher than the existing parapet of the courtroom. But you won't see much of it. To give you an example, so it's going to be about 3 feet higher than the monitor, and it's going to be forward, and that's to hide the air conditioning, exhaust fans, makeup air, all the mechanical requirements for the building now that's required. We don't have space in the back to put an air conditioning unit. We don't want to put exhaust fans, pipe them all the way out to the back. So we'll have the bathroom exhaust fans, makeup air exhaust fans, a chiller up there for air conditioning in the whole building eventually. But if you look real close on the left-hand side of the courthouse, right by the cloud, that is the corner of the courtroom. And you can see it's actually below the sight line of the front of the facade. So the mechanical screen, when you're on the ground, you might be able to see about a foot of it. If you're at the front the second floor room, you'll see more of it. But the visual impact is really the elevator tower, which you can see in the west outlet, which is the left side of the elevation. And the screen is going to be that big, but visually you won't see it. So those are the big visual impacts on the courthouse on the mobile project. Okay, this next slide is the first floor demolition plan. And so what you see highlighted on the top, as looking at this slide, the plaza is to your left, the west alley is on top, the east alley is on the bottom, and one larger wing is to your right. So you can see highlighted in red, those are the major demolition areas. There's some other little demolition areas in the process of the construction, but that's the major one. Basically, where smoke shop is, where the old block jail is, the jail that was built probably in the late 50s, early 60s. And then you can see where the vaults are on the bottom section. That's where the bathroom's going to be. And so the vaults are going to go, the floor's going to go, some of that old little partitions that were put in, that will all disappear. That's where the public restrooms are going to be. The other thing that's going to go is there's going to be a little janitor sink in the corner of where the co-op is right now. That's that little square, basically right in the center. The square to the right is right now a frame wall that will give you access to the elevator lobby. This is what the finished first floor will look like, this next slide. So you see the bathrooms, there's ADA compliant men's and women's public restrooms, there's a little janitor's closet. There's also a little hallway from the future smoke shop into the existing building. Part of the construction requirements is that all tenants have access to bathrooms without having to go outside. Currently, smoke shops doesn't have a bathroom. The little jewelry shop on the east alley doesn't have a bathroom. They all have to go out onto the plaza, come into the courtroom, which technically isn't allowed. It could be back for that. So this is looking at the first floor, the existing fourth floor. There's the staircase, and to the right, that little indentation where the plant is, that's just a frame wall. That's going to disappear. And the second picture to the right is what you see if you have your back against that wall. You see an existing door. That door will be enlarged. That's a door out to the alleyway. There's a space between the existing jail and the back of smoke shop that has got dirt floors, and you can see the neighbor's walls. It's just got a ceiling over it. So that was a door that actually opened up out into that alleyway when the courthouse was originally built. That'll be enlarged, and the elevator will be through that opening and to your left. We didn't get the so let me give you this flashlight. That's presentation slides. So, going back to demolition, that yellow line you see basically in the center, added a few slides. So on this demolition site, you can see this yellow line that I've highlighted in. So the two, where it says retail 102 and 103, that right now is where the co-op is, and they actually go all the way into 104 and part of 105. The demolition is going to be, as you can see in that right corner, where the custodial closet, also in the hallway for the opening to the elevator lobby. You can see right in the center, where you see number 27, 8, and 9, that's part of the wall that will be taken away. So there's going to be demolition in that area. If we put a temporary partition where that yellow line is, we can leave the co-op with at least 50% of the space they have. On the east side, you see that line through number 9, which is like, you see retail 117, 118. That's that is the extent of the new bathrooms. Those little partitions that are there, that are basically hashed lines, can go away. They can stay there for right now. That's possibly a spot that smoke signals can relocate to if they want to relocate while this construction's going on. The one caveat I have on this is dependent on all the building officials and the town of Tufts. Technically, you're supposed to have, every business is supposed to have access to a bathroom. While we're doing this demolition and constructing the new bathrooms, there will be no bathrooms in the courthouse. So if everybody, there's not a whole lot of bathrooms on the plaza period, but if the governing authorities allow us, the building officials, the fire department, and what else, I have spoken to the ladies in the smoke shop, the ladies at the co-op, they want to stay there as long as they can. Everybody wants to be there. We don't want to displace them if we don't have to. But it's kind of, not everything is in our hands. If it's doable, if it's allowable, we can do that, and all the governing authorities allow. They could stay in those two spaces for the duration of the construction. Something we're working on with all the officials, but it's still maybe yes, maybe no. The space is there. There's not going to be demolition. There's not going to be construction. Everything's from that yellow line back. The second floor, where this is going to be part of the construction of this first phase, that's looking from the hallway towards the west. That window, that whole cabinet, that light, that all goes away. That's walking out into the elevator lobby. Our thought was for the Historical Society, because there will be construction in the room right next to it, we may actually have to tear up some of the floor in their current offices to demolish the vaults, is to have them relocate all their records and everything into the 3 spaces on the west side that we currently use for miscellaneous meetings. Commissioner O'Donnell has space there, just so they wouldn't have to completely relocate their records. Not problem, but the fact of the matter is, the second floor will be completely closed because part of it is taking out the stairs and all the demolition required, so they wouldn't have access to their records. But you hate to move all that delicate stuff out and then put it back. This is something that the commission will have to decide, and the Historical Society will have to decide how they want to accomplish this time frame. This is about a year's worth of work because we're ready to bid. We are ready to bid our drawings. We just accept Historical Society and whatnot. We just need a few tools. We could bid it and be doing construction by September. There's demolition, reconstruction through the winter. They can do the inside work and come springtime finish. So it's an honest 9 months to 1 year phase 1 project. It's going to be great, but the reality of it is it's really ADA stuff. The 750, 825 is ADA. The 500 will pick up miscellaneous things. We're going to need a new electrical service for the elevators. It's a three-phase service. Well, ADA will probably pay for 30% of that electrical service because it's for the elevators, it's for the bathrooms, all the lighting in the elevators and fire exits. The other 60%, that's where our $500,000 will go. The demolition from basically where the back of the elevator out to the plaza, which is the smoke shop, that comes out of Tufts County money, not ADA money, because that's not an ADA issue. Reconstruction of that space will have to come out of the Tufts money. So the reality of it is, with $500,000, smoke shop may be in the main body for a couple of years. We may only get a shell, exterior walls on the roof where smoke shop is right now. Because we have to do the plumbing, the electrical, the sidewalks that are required for ADA. And in doing that, we have peripheral work that has to get done. Like I was saying, the mechanicals. So we have, the ADA will pay for all the bathrooms, the ducting, the exhaust fans and whatnot. But to reconstruct it so that they're usable on the outsides of the bathrooms, not the insides, that's going to be Taos County money, general, we'll call it general fund money, or whatever it is. I don't know where it comes from, but. So, when it's said and done, we'll have bathrooms, we'll have an elevator, we'll have additional fire exits, but we're not going to start with the sprinklers yet. We're not going to start with the electrical upgrades in the courthouse, the new windows. That's all has to be down the road. My goal is that, our goal right now is to have all the ADA stuff, be able to open the courthouse, have bathrooms, have ADA accessible and more life safety, fire exits from the top floor and the second floor. There's not going to be much done to the outside of the building, other than that one little toilet on the west side as part of the construction. That's part of that $500,000. But we can't leave that blank and block off the plaza. We have to build that little part of it taller. So, like I said, the reality of it is, smoke shops may be inside for 2 years, not for 1 year, unless we get find some additional funding through the way of the project. We're working on getting the scope very defined so that we're not putting it out to bid 3 times, 4 times to get to call on our budgetary constraints. We have managers already approved. Our plans are 100%. We're going to ask for an estimate, professional estimate on these plans. We're going to give him the way we want it broken up because of where we have the budgets. That also affects our design fee. Contractually, once the plans are delivered, which are deliverable, we're already there. The total construction cost of the project is how the architect's fees are based in the contract. That's something that's one of the reasons we need the estimate, and also so we know exactly, okay, we got to move a few little things around so that this phase of the project happens. This next slide right here shows the second floor, shows the bathrooms, where the ADA bathrooms will be on the second floor. You can see that the office where the Historical Society is still there, doesn't change much. What will happen eventually, that East Alley will go away. Right now it's not, but you can see where the bathrooms are going to be, so there will be construction there, there will be construction where the lobby is. Basically, we're going to have to shut off this whole second floor, just protect the real world. If the commission wanted to, during the summer season, wanted to have the courtroom open, and even that is a little bit difficult because looking at everything, we're probably going to have to ask the town of the McCarthy's to allow our contractor to stage and fence off that little parking area next to the public restrooms because we don't have the land for it. They're going to have materials, there's going to be demolition, there's going to be equipment. Those are little details that we're working on. Yeah, but with that being said, if we have a visitor liaison that sat in the courtroom and unlocked the doors, it'd still be a little bit difficult for the public to come up and go out. We can do it, that's up to the commission, but that's about the only room that's going to be accessible during this construction, is the courtroom. And I would hate to just open it and not have some kind of supervision there. I mean, even if we got an intern, a part-time, a senior, a high school student that would open it at 8 o'clock in the morning and close it at 5 o'clock in the evening, answer questions, would sit there just to keep an eye on our murals. It's a beautiful, very historic room. This next slide shows an overview of the whole project when it's done. You can see on the top, which is the west alley, there's the retail space, which is currently the smoke shop. There's a little hallway, which you can see it's L-shaped. That opens up into the hallway where the elevator lobby is. That will give whoever the tenant is access to the public restrooms and not having to go outside. You can see the elevator lobby. There'll be a ramp that goes up to the back out to Mar-a-Lago. That door will also be electronically controlled so that we're not taking the alley out, but we're giving Mar-a-Lago access to the building from the back. People can walk in, they'll end up in the elevator lobby. They can go upstairs or go walk through the building to the shop, see the shops, and out onto the plaza. So essentially, we are giving them access through the whole building and utilizing the alley at the same time. There'll be stairs, you can see all the way at the top right-hand corner. Those are the fire exits from the top elevator lobby down to the back alley. On the bottom of the page, you can see the existing buildings are gone. There's a little walk-through park. It'll all be sidewalk with ice melt and just a little bit of landscaping. So you'll be able to walk through open air from Mar-a-Lago out to the plaza on that side eventually. And you'll be able to walk through the building and have handicap access to the building and out on the plaza. So phase one will allow people to walk from Mar-a-Lago to the plaza through our building. When we're all said and done, we'll have 2 accesses through from Mar-a-Lago to the plaza.
I have some questions, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Commissioners, so the first question is the mechanical screen that's going to be up on the roof. It's going to go above the original building line that exists this time. Is that going to be plastered?
Yes.
How is it going to be supported?
Our structural engineers have gone through, we've opened up the ceiling to see how the roof was constructed. There are bond beams on several places, so the actual load, the roof structure will be beefed up, but there will also actually be additional construction to put the loads on the bond beams on load-bearing walls so that it doesn't affect the roof.
It won't, and so that weight will be on the walls now that they have the murals.
Yeah, well, no, that wall will actually be on the hallway walls. Those are building walls that carry all the way down to the ground, to the foundation.
Okay. And then the vault rooms are going to be completely taken out.
Will be
Walls,
completely
concrete
taken out.
walls. How will you demolish those? Because those are at least 18 inches.
What's that?
They're at least 18 inches, those concrete walls?
Those concrete walls are freestanding, but because the way it appears the way they constructed, they've opened the floor, I've opened the ceiling so we can see the vaults are completely freestanding. They don't add any support to the building. But it appears that they built the walls before they put the second floor. So they poured concrete floor, they made forms, they poured the concrete walls as they went up, then they poured a concrete ceiling, and then they put the floor/ceiling above it. So we may have to demolish the floor up above. The contractor may have to demolish it to be able to cut apart the concrete. They make concrete saws that cut the concrete strips and we can break it up. My thought is we're going to have two options to the demolition. So you can see where the vaults are.
Right.
And there's the one big area that we don't currently use right now to the right, which is towards Mar-a-Lago. That window in that alley is basically, that wall is gone. It's just plastered with the exception of the bottom 2 feet. One idea was that they could backfill that alley and use small equipment to get the concrete out that back alley and take that moving, because eventually it's going to come out. It's going away. My other thought was, the more I thought about it, is since we're blocking off the construction, they could also, there's a doorway where the bathroom's going to be. You can see the hash mark right where it says number 20. That's where the doorway would be into the restrooms. They could take the concrete rubble out. That first square will be on the right-hand side where that wall is next to the staircase will be gone. The alleyway will be open because they're doing construction, so they'd be able to take the rubble out through there also. So there's a couple different ways to get it out, but that's probably the most difficult part of the demolition. We're probably going to have to get in there with saws, wet saws, and shop vacs. And they don't use a lot of water just to keep the dust out, but it's a lot of noise to cut it up into pieces so they can break it and then haul it out.
And so the partition that you're going to divide, that is going to kind of keep just the traffic in that front area.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be enough of a partition to where there is no noise here?
I don't think there's any partition that would keep that amount of noise during the demolition. During normal construction stuff, I don't think they'll hear. Demolition of the vaults is going to be noisy, and we may require them to do it on the weekend. You can put constraints in your contract so that you say, okay, during business hours are open from 10 to 5, we don't want that work going on. From 5, it costs you more, but you can do that. It's not an undoable thing. It's not, I've done that when I worked at banks or businesses that are operational. When we remodeled SIDS, we did everything after they closed. We go and work from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. And so it is doable.
And so, in terms of the money available for it, I was a little unclear. There's a $750,000 CDBG, totally for ADA compliance. And then other amounts?
We had to do a 10% match, $75,000, so that puts us at $825. And then the commission has allocated another $500,000 towards the project, so that puts us at $1.3.
Okay. And you're saying that it's going to be anywhere from 3.5 to about 4.5 million. So
if we had it all in one chunk, it's less expensive. The more phases you break it in, it becomes there's more staging, more it's just more expensive. And then inflation. And steel prices are fluctuating so much that we have to lock in buildings before we even get a permit because the price will change on the contractors before they can order.
So in terms of the plumbing, where the vault rooms are, new bathroom facilities will be there. How will you connect the new plumbing to the street?
The new plumbing will basically get up to the bathrooms. So you can see the bathrooms. In between the two bathrooms, there's a big mechanical chase similar to the chases that we have here. The plumbing will likely go back into the basement underneath where Museum 110 is. That way the pipe's easy to run it across over to the alley. And then it will run a new piping will run in the alley because we'll have taken out all the old stuff. That's our opportunity to put in new plumbing and new storm sewer.
And a couple more questions. In terms of, we know how all of this is going to affect the businesses and tenants that are currently in there, but when you mentioned that you will have to probably go to the McCarthy's and the town of Taos for additional space for construction equipment and materials, all that stuff, that area is going to be fenced off more than likely,
yes,
security purposes?
Similar to the fence that we have here across, it's just the fencing has a big footprint, just the way the fence holds it down.
How is it going to affect surrounding businesses? Any thought on that? The alley cantina back there, parking issues?
The area that I would like to take is used for the buses to turn around, as two buses. There's a little police substation, so occasionally there's a public safety. We can still have 2 spaces there so they can come in. It's not really public parking. I don't want to fence off the alley because that is fire protection access. It's a complicated, logistics are tough.
And so you're looking at a construction period of about 9 months, a year from now, that it will be done?
Phase one.
You're gonna basically work on it during the winter time, starting in September?
I would like to. It's a small enough space that even the demolition, I don't think it's going to take more than a month or the hour. I've been in there. The toughest part is the concrete floor in the old jail. The smoke shop, the storage area that the co-op is using has a wood floor that's laying on the dirt. The vigas in the smoke shop run north-south, so they're not attached to Mr. Cunningham's building. Our roof just kind of sits there and is snug up against it. The cells are freestanding, but they're full of concrete, they're solid concrete, so that's the biggest chunk. Like I said, I would say for that alley, no more than 30 days to do the demolition. Once that's done, with permission from Mr. Cunningham, that's on the tender. Roy and I have had conversations, and he's, I'm not going to say enthusiastic, but he sees the positive aspect towards his building and toward the plaza. We have 2 electrical services. Our electrical services are on his building. There's a spaghetti spiderweb rat's nest of telephone that needs to get cleaned up. That's sitting on his building. It's not his stuff. It's most of our gas line for the smoke shop is on his building. So all that's going to get cleaned up. It's a small enough area that even if, let's say we got a late start and we started in October and did the demolition, they could actually tent across, if you'll allow us, his building and the courthouse, and you put in heaters and you continue work. It's not like we're trying to tent this building. It's 15 feet wide and 80 feet long. Does add to cost. The other thing is, if we wait until springtime, then we're doing construction through summer, which is, I think, harder on all our neighbors than doing it through the winter time when it's a little bit slower. You know, we can ask in the contracts, we can ask the contractor, say, okay, from, like I said, it's all about money though. We don't want any work from the week, you know, it's Friday before the week of Thanksgiving till that Monday after Thanksgiving. We don't want work from the 20th of December till the 15th of January. They the contractors probably wouldn't mind it, but it does cost you money because it's mobilization and it's administrative time and whatnot. But that's things that we can do to keep the impact as low to the plaza merchants, our tenants, you know.
In terms of when the actual demolition is going to happen, are there any precautions that you're going to have to take with regards to the building itself? Is it possible for it to actually...
We will have, Jim Hans is our structural engineering consultant for Conrad and Woods. I've worked with Jim since the 90s. He did engineering at Sentinel Lane. He will be available as things come out so we can see. My biggest concern is looking at everything is when we start doing recompaction and digging footings for the new structure. It doesn't appear that we're attached very well to Mr. Cunningham's building. I can see his truss ties that come through his building that are exposed on the block. So his building seems to be constructed pretty well. From inside, we're not attached very well, so, but as we come forward, yeah, we will have engineering consultations to look at protecting the neighbor's building and our building.
Thank you for taking on this task. I know it's going to be enormous compared to other things that have been happening in the county. We've been talking about this since 1994, and it'll be good to see it at least started.
Well, I think the commission took
after 25 years.
You know, it's important to have a complete set of plans. That way, even though you have to stop, you have an end goal and you can do it. You're not just doing this and then you're thinking about this. The whole project has been thought out from start to finish. And yeah, there's been a few little hiccups. There's one I'm a little bit concerned about. I think we have a buried fuel oil tank. So one of the things that we'll be getting, we're doing the construction on, to get Kears over there to do asbestos and lead paint inspection, little things like that, peripherals. More information you give your contractor, the better price, fewer change orders, fewer surprises you have during the project.
So, Madam Chair, one last commission, is there then a plan to seek the funding to complete this so that we don't have to prolong it?
I'm hoping that maybe after people actually see the project start, maybe somebody in the community will be as generous as they were with the community center and the swimming pool. They don't have to give us $2 million, but $1 million would be great. I think when people see it, and it's been talked about for so many years, like, how we're going to do it, when they see the sign up, the fencing going up, and the project starting, I think that will generate some interest, I hope.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Could you explain the clearances you mean if we were to keep the tenants in there regarding permission for the bathrooms? What does that mean?
The only thing that we could do is I think would have to walk out and go to the public restrooms in the back. I mean, that's all we can do right now. I mean, because we're going to replace that line that has given us issues in the past, that's underneath the jail and under smoke shop, that's the main line, so it kills all the bathrooms. I mean, because of the construction back in the jail, where the bathrooms are going to go, you just can't have people walking through to use the restroom.
You mentioned we have to get some approvals from the town. What are those?
Well, it'd be more from the, it's going to be a state inspected project, not a town inspected project, in all likelihood. So, like I said, the building code requires in my city that you have facilities for all businesses in the building. We don't. So it's really a CID thing. They've been very accommodating. A sprinkler system, they said they could, because of the historical aspect of the building, we didn't have to do it. UNM-Taos Fire Marshal requested that we put it in, so it's designed in, and it is part of the construction. I think it's better for the project. Plaza's burned a couple times. So protecting our assets is good, but it is pricey. I mean, a sprinkler system for that building, 10,000 square feet, is probably going to cost us $40,000 at least. But because of
Permission is from CID, not the town, as far as permission to let the tenants use the other bathrooms. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's CID and the town. The fire marshal also has say in this. We have to get a lot of cooperation from a couple different parties. It's not just CID. CID has been very accommodating. The town, for the most part, has been very accommodating. But if they have big reservations, they could say no. That's just the fact of the matter. They could say no. The city could, the state could.
When do you want that done to give us?
I would like to know by middle of July at the latest. Because as we've gotten closer, when we're working on the logistics and everything that's involved, I wasn't sure that we'd be able to divide up the space so that we could leave tenants in. The way we're doing it, we can divide it, keep them separate out of the construction site. You do it all the time. The Sunports are always renovating food spaces, retail spaces, they partition it off. So we can't do it, but they have bathrooms all over here, or all over the wall. The bathrooms are kept operable. We try to.
All the materials you're going to take out, the beams, the walls, anything that's recyclable, will we have the walls intact where we can display them somewhere? Will the contract stipulate that the county has control of some of these recyclable materials that are coming out? So I'd kind of like to hear from Mr. Woods briefly about this out and related to, my understanding is you will be letting the bid out and you will be the project manager. Could you just address some of these issues here as far as,
Yes. So the way the documents are set up, we will be assisting the county in administrating the construction contract. So we'll be involved all the way through closeout. And in the documents, we have the owner having a right to review any salvageable materials before they're removed from site. We also have some language in there concerning historic fabric. Most of what we're taking out is not really historic in nature, but you never know what you find inside a wall or something like that. And so the contractor needs to notify us and Richard, and we'll all take a look at it and figure out what the appropriate disposition of that material is.
what is that underground fuel tank?
Pardon?
Where would the underground fuel tank be if it exists?
We don't know that there's one, but we think there's one on the north side of the building. Maybe one.
Given the complexities, what do you think the chances are that we can actually get bids to complete what we're envisioning in the first step that don't end up with change orders that go well beyond our 1.3?
Well, there's a number of contractors that are interested in it.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking about, having qualifications written into the bid documents as part of the process. And we spent a lot of time in that building and on these drawings.
Right.
The reality is, it's an old building. There have been times that the construction isn't perhaps the best, and we won't know for sure what we find till we get in there.
Yeah.
We usually leave a contingency, and,
Chances are, in order to get, the bathrooms and the elevator, what's envisioned in that first year, we might need to consider that 1.3 might not cover it, even if the bids come in at 1.3.
that is a possibility.
But the mural room will be open after that construction is done, and be able to use the mural room. Because there may be a gap, obviously, in time, between phase 1 and phase 2. Right? Yes.
My goal, I've been going through this like a contractor. How can I keep this building open? And so, like I said, what we're doing really isn't going to change the interior finishes, isn't going to change lighting, we're not even going to touch the heating right now because 1.3 isn't going to do it. We're not going to start with the big mechanical like the air conditioning. What we're going to do is what we have to do just to do the ADA requirements. So all the doors, all the offices, the way things are now, for the most part, other than at the hallway entrances where you go into the bathrooms, where you go to the elevator lobby, that will have to be usable. It has to be safe to get a certificate of occupancy.
Right, but at the end of the 1.3, the first stage, the 1.3 plus over that year, at the end of that, the retail spaces
Everything will be just the way it is.
The mural room will be usable.
Yeah.
So that was my question. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you so much for driving up from Santa Fe. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
No, again, thank you for allowing us to work on this building, and thank you, Richard, for putting the presentation together. We usually have to do that, and Richard has been great working on this project.
Thank you. Moving on to item B under presentations, a presentation regarding Taos County GRT Finance Overview, Eric Harrigan, and Managing Director of RBC Capital Markets. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Again, Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets, for the county's municipal advisor. I believe that you do have a presentation that was handed out to you. And just to kind of provide just a little bit of introduction, as you may remember, kind of early last year, the county refunded the bonds associated with this building, and the savings that were generated were sufficient to free up the infrastructure gross receipts tax from being pledged to the payment of those bonds, and allows that to be pledged to future debt, which we'll talk about for this item here. On page 2 of the presentation, you'll see that we provided a history of the infrastructure gross receipts tax going back the last 5 years. And in 2016, it hit a high, generated about $340,000 in revenue. And then currently, this year projected, although we still don't have a full year yet, projected it's going to generate about $273,000 in annual revenue. So we ran a couple of capacity numbers based upon that number. But if we were to use 100% of that revenue for the repayment of the debt, we would also need to have an additional source of revenue to pledge to the payment of that debt. Because as the finance authority, as any other investor, they require to have what we call coverage, meaning that the revenues are sufficient to not only pay the debt service, but also provide some cushion. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So on page 3 of the presentation, to try to maximize the amount of revenues available to the county for this project, we initially looked at a 25-year repayment period. Again, this assumes that the annual debt service is around $272,000, what the infrastructure gross receipts tax is currently generating. And that generates about $4.34 million in project revenues. The estimated borrowing rate would be about 3.24%. That is pretty conservative given current market conditions, and I'll talk a little bit about interest rates and where they are right now at the end of the presentation. Because the debt service, projected debt service would effectively equal the infrastructure gross receipts tax revenue, an additional increment of GRT would have to be pledged. We're continuing to still look at this, but we think that the first county 1/8 gross receipts tax increment would be sufficient to meet the coverage requirements of the finance authority. On page 5 of the presentation, we also looked at if we were to do a 20-year borrowing instead of a 25-year, again, assuming 100% of the infrastructure gross receipts tax was used to repay the debt, that would generate about $3.76 million in proceeds for the project. If we, again, this assumes on a 20-year basis, this assumes that we would have to use an additional source of revenue to pledge in addition to the infrastructure gross receipts tax. If we use just the infrastructure gross receipts tax as the pledge, without an additional, that on a 25-year basis, that would generate about $3.9 million for the project without pledging an additional increment. And for a 20-year, that would be about $3.45 million in net proceeds to the county. From a timing perspective, if the commission so chooses to move forward this and authorize the application to the New Mexico Finance Authority, the NMFA would meet later this month in June to consider and approve the loan. We would then be back before the commission in July and close in August, trying to get funds to the county as quick as possible. So this is probably the fastest from a timing standpoint that we can meet. From an interest rate standpoint, we have seen interest rates decline pretty significantly from peak in October of last year. Interest rates are down anywhere between 70 to 90 basis points, depending upon which one you're looking at. But if you take a look at page 11 of the presentation, you'll see where interest rates were in October and where they currently are right now. Effectively, we're looking at from the AAA MMD, which is the rate that where all municipal bonds price, we're about 30 to 40 basis points from the lowest point that we've seen over the last 5 years, which is the lowest point that we've seen in the history of municipal interest rates. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions of the information that I've covered.
Yes.
The pledge that we're hoping to stay within is the 1A infrastructure, is that right?
So we've looked at it both ways. We've looked at using all of the infrastructure gross receipts tax for the repayment of the debt, which generates more proceeds. If you do that, you have to pledge an additional increment of gross receipts tax because it doesn't meet the coverage requirements for the finance authority. If you were to pledge only the infrastructure gross receipts tax, that would generate about $3.9 million. The annual debt service would be about $243,000 in that case. So it would give you about $30,000 of cushion, if you will, between what you're currently collecting and what your debt service payments would be.
And that doesn't sunset, that's not going to interfere with whatever length we go?
As far as I know, that is not a sunsetting increment, kind of like the educational gross receipts tax, which does have an automatic sunset.
Because we really don't have that much else to pay. We gotta stick within the, I think we have to stick within that infrastructure tax that we have. So I hope, 3.9 will do it. That's assuming that rates stay within the range that they've been in the last few years. Obviously, it's been erratic since all the tariff stuff. But I guess, we can probably count on something within the range that we've seen the past few years, and that's about how the numbers work out to 3.9.
That's correct. We think that would be the prudent, decision is to stay within the infrastructure gross receipts tax. It does obviously reduce the amount. We think that's the prudent, pledge to have. So.
And Brent, you feel good about that? 3.9?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Blackmore, yes, for good staying with 3.9 and also within the infrastructure gross receipts tax. That was always been our plan. I also want to point out that then we'll have to go to general fund reserves to make up the difference. So, as you recall, facility build was here at last meeting, so they're at 5.9. We initially asked Eric to run numbers at 6. We couldn't do it, so that's where we're sticking within the infrastructure. So we would have to make up the $2 million from the reserves.
Okay, well then, we got it covered. This is a little off point, but I'm not sure you know the answer, but, going back to that sunsetting 0.5%, do you know when that does sunset in a year or two, whether we have to go back to the voters to continue that 0.5%?
So, I'm not sure. That's a little bit outside of my purview. I don't know if the commission can just take action to re-adopt it. I know we looked at that, but my memory is failing me. It was about a year ago, and I apologize that I don't remember.
And I remember you brought an attorney with you who said that he read it and that the school district could come back to the future board and request another 10-year extension without going out to voters. That was my recollection.
That's correct.
That's correct. So it's a good thing for everybody to keep in mind. Sometime in the next 2 years, the school district can come back and you guys, without going to the voters, just a majority vote on this board, can extend that half cent for another 10 years. That half cent, of course, brings us up to one of the highest levels in the state. Just a separate little lobbying thing there.
And it's the only one in the state, right?
And it's the only one in the state like it. It's a big deal. Thank you for that interpretation.
You said we would have to use an additional 1/8 of the county GRT to this, or that was an
That was
option?
one model.
That would be an option.
But we have to we have to enact that, or is that already enacted?
That increment is already enacted. It's already pledged to other debt. I mean, we think that with the existing debt and that increment, you'd have sufficient coverage. But by using the infrastructure gross receipts tax as the only pledge, it also gives you a little bit of cushion if you were to see further decline in your infrastructure gross receipts tax. In looking at your trend, we think the prudent thing would be to pledge just the infrastructure gross receipts tax and take slightly, lower proceeds. Of course, that, it's a balancing act of trying to maximize the proceeds you can generate with also within the revenue that you're trying to pledge to the debt.
That reminds me, I think I saw someone in here, a projection that the gross receipts tax would decrease 4.9% in the coming year. Was that correct?
That's our estimate based upon the current trend for this year for 2019. So in 2015 is when, it's on page 2, is when we saw a low, if you will, in the infrastructure gross receipts tax. It generated about 264,000. And then in year 2016, it jumped to 340,000. And I'm guessing that probably has to do with a lot of the activity that was going on up at the Taos Ski Valley, kind of one-time construction numbers. We're now back down to 273, so that's probably closer to what you should really be collecting in the future. But the trend has been lower.
Yeah, it was just that extra money that was spent last year, and whatever it's trending now is likely to stay about there, maybe up 1% or 2 if we're lucky. I think so too.
And so if I understood you correctly, we would have to pledge some of our reserves. That goes into the application to demonstrate that we have the ability?
Over a 1-year bill. I mean,
Is this a
we have option.
We don't need that for coverage, we just need that to complete the
project.
construction
Right.
contract.
Okay.
Because we're approximately 5.9, and we can only take out 3.9 for the loan.
And what you're proposing is sufficient for an MFA application?
That is correct. So at 3.9 million, we show that it generates sufficient coverage to meet the finance authority's test. In the application, we would be showing that there would be sources of money coming from the county to pay for the project, but it would not be pledged to the repayment of the debt, only for purposes of completing the project.
All right.
Not yet non-recurring, correct.
And recommendation that they will proceed.
Yes, the next item on the agenda, Madam Chair, is approval of resolution 2019-26. This is actual resolution that would authorize us to submit an application to the Mexico Finance Authority for funding. Mr. Alsop is here from Module Sperling, and they would prepare the application and the documents for funding.
All right, so then we shall proceed to the next item unless, okay. Item 10, resolutions and ordinances. Item A, approval of resolution number 2019-26, a resolution authorizing and approving submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to NMFA to finance construction of the new county operations complex building, declaring the intent of the Board of County Commissioners to consider for adoption an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement for the purpose of financing the project and directing the county manager and county clerk to publish notice of intent to consider an ordinance authorizing such loan agreement in the newspaper of general circulation within the county.
Move for approval of resolution number 2019-26.
And I second.
There's been a motion made and a second. Please call roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Madam Chair, before we go on to the next item, Mr. Alsop can give us a brief overview of the timeline, and then we can submit and we can go over that real quick.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner Carvey. I'm Daniel Olson from Model Law Firm. It's nice to see you again. The next steps here are for the application to be considered by the Finance Authority and its staff. The application would go before the Finance Authority Board on June 27th, and assuming approval by the Finance Authority Board, interest rates would be set sometime around the first week of July, and we would come back to this commission with an ordinance that would approve the loan agreement and the final interest rate at the July 16th meeting. Closing would occur on August 23rd, and probably be available beginning on that date.
And you had mentioned your interest rates are dropping since November. How is that possible?
So that's a good question. There's a couple of things at play. One of probably the most significant thing is that coming into 2019, it was expected that the Federal Reserve was planning to raise the overnight lending rate 3 or 4 times, which would take that all the way up to close to 3% on the overnight lending rate. Because of what the Federal Reserve was seeing in the local economy and the international economies, they turned dovish, if you will, and basically came out and announced that they are not going to raise rates, are probably not going to raise rates this year at all. And yesterday, I know one of the Federal Reserve members, I can't remember who it was exactly, but they were actually talking about maybe even trying to cut rates. That in conjunction with what we're seeing with what's going on with the tariff situation, issues between, U.S., China, and now potentially U.S. and Mexico, et cetera. What that does is that puts a lot of uncertainty into the markets, and when there's uncertainty in the markets, generally money flows to safe investments, which are bonds, U.S. Treasuries, and municipal bonds. So we're seeing a lot of money come into those, and as the money comes in, interest rates decline due to supply and demand. Long term, though, if tariffs were to impact, goods and increase, have inflationary pressures, then you can see the opposite trend happening. We're not seeing any inflation in our economy right now, and that's one of the other reasons why we're starting to see, we've seen interest rates decline since the November.
And you're referring mostly to overnight lending. So what did you say you would expect the interest rate? And would there be any lowering between now and July? What did you?
So we estimated that the interest rate would be about, 3.12, 3.14%. Now, we try to be conservative to allow for if interest rates were to go up between now and when we price, to give us some flexibility on that. So if interest rates were to, continue to decline, we might be able to have a little bit more money than the 3.9 million that I mentioned. If interest rates were to suddenly rise significantly between now and then, we might see something a little bit less than the 3.9 million because we're targeting a certain amount of annual debt service. The less we pay in interest, the more we effectively are going to be able to generate from proceeds.
And I think your timeline might be in our favor. I really think we need to help them keep that timeline. If there is a drop before anything drastic happens, I think you're on the right track.
Another thing that's important on the timeline is on the facility building, we need to lock in the building cost because the price of steel is going to go up. So it's kind of how we have to, don't want to say rush it, but get this approved.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for driving up from Albuquerque.
Thank you.
Motion for a 10-minute break. 7.
Motion to have 7 after.
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion for a break.
I know. Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yep.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Do what you gotta do and just press.
Motion to come back to the regular schedule. Regular session later today. Thank you. Tough work.
Do you have a second?
I have a second.
All right, please call.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Present.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we're moving on to consent agenda. Item 11. Been reviewed for the purpose of voting on all items with one vote. Item A, approval of DFA Resolution Number 32, 2018-2019 FY. A resolution requesting to adjust 2019 FY to accurately reflect budget increases and or decreases of county funds pursuant to fiscal year closeout activities. Item B, approval of DFA Resolution Number 33, 2018-2019 FY. A resolution requesting to transfer permanent cash from the general fund to the EMS fund as identified during the formal budget review. Item C, approval of a budget adjustment for 18 EMPG grant 2446-25265. Item D, approval of resolution number 2019-27, a resolution approving the DWI Team Court Planning Council bylaws. Item E, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding the approval of Renewal 3 on contract TCC 2016-040 WH Pacific Incorporated. And item F, request for out-of-state travel for Nina Abreu to attend the 2018 Crimes Against Kids Conference in Lake Buena Vista, Florida from August 6th through the 10th, 2019. Commissioners, are there any agenda items?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve A through D and F. I would like some more information on items.
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion under the consent agenda to approve items A through D with item E and F to include?
No, just E.
Just E.
F was being, is part of my motion.
Okay, so consent agenda A through D and F with E being pulled. Let's vote on the consent agenda first. All those in favor?
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes. Now, Commissioner, you.
My
your
question is, what is this project? And I understand there might be some other stuff regarding Blueberry Hill coming down the pipe. Would this include anything that could help us move that along?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fambro, yes. The intention of renewal number 3 is to have the engineer out Blueberry Hill Road. We're also currently working on upper and lower Llano San Juan, in District 5, and they're also working on the Mexico 150 and Leo's Road, Martinez Road, and District 4 as well.
With that, Madam Chair, I ask for approval.
I'll second with a question with regards to Morada Road, section of County Road is.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Romero, Beta Engineering Inc. has that engineering contract for La Morada Road and Camino de Medio as well.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Yes.
Good news, thank you.
I'm glad you pulled out that, Commissioner.
I just wanted to make sure that we have that Blueberry, because there's possible funding.
Item 12A is discussion regarding recycling operations for the town of Tufts. And you received a letter. We'll be discussing it at the landfill board, how we want to proceed. Were we given the financials for the recycling operations at the recycling center in town?
Madam Chair, I did forward you the budget for the recycling. I went to the commission last night. Ms. Martinez was able to get it from the town, and that got forwarded to you yesterday evening, as well as another email from Mr. Bellis as well. And we do have the original letter. The town of Taos is asking for a vote on the moving the recycling operations into the landfill. And so they're asking for a vote at the June 20th landfill board meeting. So we placed this on the agenda to start to discuss it, of maybe a possible agenda item on the June 17th commission meeting to provide direction to our voting member, which is Commissioner O'Donnell. And so this is meant for a general discussion.
Yes.
You know, to me, in a way, this makes sense because it's similar to what NMC is doing with the multi-line and law enforcement pools. Combining it because one has a good reserve and the other is constantly in the hole. So if you look on the financial statement dated June 30th, 2018, if I read it right, there's sufficient money in their, if that's for the landfill, there's sufficient money in their reserves that would offset the deficit of, I'm looking at, I believe it's 42,800 is what the deficit is in recycling. Let me look at the next one. So I don't know what the total might be, but I also feel, Madam Chair, you as our representative, there's it's a very low fee that are charged to the town residents at this time for recycling. So possibly with the both having access to the reserves for from landfill and possibly looking at those fees, I think I would be in favor of those possibly bailing us out. The comments that that the county is taking, raiding the recycling market from the recycling center, I think are doing nothing but turning me away from helping in any way. And the comments like that from powers that be in the town, that's just detrimental to us wanting to help. So I think either somebody needs to curtail the comments directed at the county, because that would certainly change my attitude in supporting this initiative.
All right, I do believe there are sufficient reserves in the landfill fund, and if the landfill board were to vote to do investments similar to what we're doing, instead of the $500 a year investment return, interest return, you'd see more like $20,000. I was looking for the reserve amount here.
I'm trying to remember what it was when I was in your position there, but I believe it's...
Landfill reserve.
I'm going to say it's in the neighborhood of $200,000. Hasn't decreased.
The 144 for landfill reserve.
And then there's also cell reserve money.
Cell reserve, which brings it up to...
But those pretty much will be expended at some point. And keep in mind the recycling, I know it's not a money maker, and it has been said to the board many times that the amount of recycling is way less than what a cell would cost. A cell would be cheaper than what the recycling costs currently are to the town, but this is something that our community wants and we need to continue.
I agree.
So hearing the general consensus then would be a vote to move recycling into the regional landfill?
I think with my experience with what we've done at NMC in the pool boards, I believe this would be a way to do it until something changes with the markets. Now keep in mind with the new tariff stuff that announced, the problem with recycling is probably going to get worse. We need to be prepared. Maybe it is something that eventually is going to go away, but that's not because we haven't tried.
All right, well.
Madam Chair, and maybe it's just my interpretation, and if you read the email or the letter from Mr. Bellis, if moving the recycling into the landfill operations, my interpretation also is they would like us to cease our recycling efforts. I don't know if you read it that way, but I know Mr. Martinez is here, and we recycle cardboard, and there's a market for that as well as metals. So I guess that might be something to clarify at the landfill board meeting, is if the county is going to be allowed to continue some recycling operations such as cardboard and other metals.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, Mr. Arnott, I would like to hear from Mr. Martinez on that.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Please come to...
We are doing recycling now on the cardboard. We're getting busier on that. The baler that they have given us from Placitas, that gave out now.
but I am looking for an inverter for the new grader that we've had in our possession for years and years. We start doing our operations on the cardboard. Right now, we're taking our cardboard to Santa Fe, capital city, or Santa Fe capital of the recycling program there. We're getting $65 a ton for the cardboard. From what I understand, the town there, they get like 20, but we're turning in a good product of corrugated cardboard. So we have none of that chipboard, cereal boxes, Coke boxes, beer boxes, none of that. So we are turning in a good product. We take our metal to Aguirre. So the only thing we are taking to the landfill and to the recycle center, is the plastics and a little bit of white paper. Other than that, we're taking our cans to Aguirre, we're taking our aluminum cans to Aguirre, our metal to Aguirre, and our cardboard to Santa Fe.
So, Madam Chair, what are your thoughts? Do we turn over complete recycling to the other entity, or do we hold on to it?
I would hold on to it. We're doing it with my staff with what we have. We're still being able to collect all the cardboard. We're actually working now with Quest up and the energy bars that they're giving us a bunch of the cardboard. And now knowing these other businesses that are, knowing that we're trying to get on board with that, I'm having a lot more people calling and wanting for us to pick up their cardboard also. Because there's a lot of them are just ending up throwing it into the landfill and filling up ourselves.
Madam Chair, thank you. Mr. Martinez, so does the town actively go out and pick up the stuff like what you're doing?
No.
So that's the difference right there?
The difference is that the residents are bringing it to the recycle center here and only, yeah.
So you're going actively out to commercial businesses and getting that, and that's not something that the town has, that's not a service the town has been offering, correct?
Correct. I mean, a lot of this stuff is coming from all my transfer stations where we do have the recycling of cardboard. We just now recently started picking up the one from the energy bars up in Cuesta. We probably have 2 weeks into it, maybe 3 weeks at the most. Okay. And now they're busy time of the season, so they are collecting more. And they said now in July, they're going to have probably 5 times the amount that they're giving us right now. And every Monday we're filling up one of my recycling trailers that we got through the rate grant. And we're bringing one of those full every Monday from the energy bar. That's just from the energy bar in Cuesta.
And it's so cost efficient for you to do that?
It is, because either, we're paying this employee full-time anyways to do it, so whether we're that busy or not, we're finding time to mix it into the equation, where he's going and getting all the other recyclables, and still has, we're still working on getting our cardboard also.
So to sum it up, basically what recycling you're doing for those things, you're going out and doing. You're not just sitting back and waiting for it to happen.
Only at the transfer station where they take it to it, but then we go and pick it up, but we go and...
And you have to then process it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we take it up to Santa Fe. There's other ones that will come and pick it up, but then they'll take half the profits away, and that's where it's not really, then it won't really work doing the recycling, because they're taking half of it away, if not a little bit more than half.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, our commissioners, our manager seems to think that there is language in any agreements that are being proposed by the town that where they want us to give up recycling efforts, our own recycling efforts. And our staff is telling us not, we need to continue that effort in the way that you're doing it.
Well,
so I agree with Mr. Martinez on that.
And to support Commissioner Romero's comments, we're going out and doing this, we're providing this service. If the town wants that cardboard and the other stuff, then they could certainly have made the effort to meet the Taos Mountain Energy Bar, now, and the other commercial ventures that Mr. Martinez has explained to us today. Either they don't have the ability to, or they don't, they're just waiting for it at their place, whereas we're getting active and going out. So I in support of your statement.
Yeah, we're producing a good product is what it is. Like, we're getting good cardboard. So our buyers are, they like the product that we're coming up with. Not to say anything about the town, but their bales are, contaminated with the chipboard and other stuff that doesn't bring that much revenue. From what I understand, they're making like $20 a ton, to where we're bringing in $65 a ton for our cardboard, which is a big difference, to make it efficient and worthy, you've got to turn in a good product in order to get a good payment for it.
Yes.
Thanks, Madam Chair. But the question of whether or not to go from the town of Taos to the landfill is kind of separate. And I love what we're doing with cardboard, it's great. And that could remain, right?
Unless if you haven't read Mr. Bellis's letter, he's asking that we cease and desist.
They always make me a little dizzy, so I can finish it.
Right, I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding, Rick.
He's watching.
Yeah. But you guys are doing great work with that cardboard and making it, it's effective financially and environmentally. So love that. But it seems like you're going to have to make a switch from the town to the landfill. They got the reserves, just like Commissioner Pembroke said. But yeah, well, I'm with all you guys. I don't want to give up what we're doing. We're trying to make that switch. So thank you.
And what I've seen at the recycling center is there is a pollution of the waste stream for cardboard, for paper, and I would think that if we were to turn it over to the landfill board, we would want to see some changes as far as more education so people aren't polluting their waste stream. But I will relay that then, our position.
Yeah, because once it's contaminated even a bit, then your whole load is contaminated. Because by the time you separate everything, even like there's no market in plastic. So right now the plastic is kind of really a loss actually. The money where money's at is in the cardboard, the tin, the metal, and the white goods. And when you're looking at your washer dryers and all the metal, that's where we're bringing in some pretty decent money throughout the year. And then now with the cardboard, now we're taking 2 loads to Santa Fe. We've made like $270 a day, the most, but it's actually better than they going to the landfill and making use of it. And people are actually wanting to recycle more. We're having Family Dollars jump in now. We're having all these other businesses that want to do the right thing in recycling, and it'll cost them less because they don't have to throw it in their dumpsters and pay waste management to go pick it up. They're actually saving also on top of doing the right thing on recycling cardboard.
So in terms of, Madam Chair, in terms of plastic, like the little minis, those are out of the question.
Those are totally out of the question because you find those in the side of the road, the ones that have dirt or dust under them, they're contaminated, and then you have to wash it out, and that takes more out for them what you're getting back. You're putting a lot more into that than the plastic is definitely unless they can find another use for it, it's not going to rebound anytime soon at all. I mean, we go to these conferences and not even the Solid Waste Bureau is, they know that the recycling plastic is pretty much non-existent until they find something better to do with it.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, I know the market fluctuates a lot, so I think the intake at the recycling center needs to fluctuate to match market. So if there's no market for certain things, then at that time we just can't accept them. And then hopefully there will become a market and we can start again with it. But I mean, it has to be a little more flexible instead of just, we've always taken this, we're going to take this. So maybe we could pass on in your discussion, Commissioner, with them that we're flexible with what is in the intake at the recycling. Thank you.
Are you collecting recycled plastics at the landfill, at our transfer station?
We are, to some extent. I mean, it's not like once we find it contaminated, then we just go ahead and throw it. we'll throw it back into the waste stream because it's contaminated already. We don't have the manpower to go washing the bottles and, doing it. You're wasting water as opposed to what you're getting back. Water is a more valuable resource than figuring out what to do with the plastic.
Would your recommendation be just to cease recycling plastic at our transfer station?
I do.
Until
Until there's a market, and it's just like glass. I'm sure that there's something that's going to pop up on there, even talking to veterans off the grid, where he's talking to the people, the artists that want just a certain color of glass so that they can use with their art. Because when it's mixed, then that's the product they don't want. But when it's separated, they want the blues, the greens, to do with their art, whatever they're doing. Like better, they want the green bottles, the red bottles, they want to make a flag of some sort to put made out of the bottles. So like the browns are not that popular, that's one of the ones they don't want, but any other colors, the clear ones, the green ones, the blue ones, those are the colors that they really like. So I think I'm trying to see what I can do with them about bringing back the bottles and working with them or with artists that they crush it up and use it as for whatever they're going to use it in their art.
We're still taking glass to the recycling center?
No.
We're not recycling glass at all?
No. Because glass is really heavy and there's nothing to do with it, and the market is just as bad with the glass as it is with the plastic.
And regarding the letter from Mr. Bellis, that the town with a population of 5,000 carry the burden for the county region population 33,000 with regards to recycling has continued to worsen as time has passed due to the variety of market and logistic reasons, some of which are outlined in his letters. So with that, that backs up my statement of being flexible in what it is, and yes, it's open to everyone in the county. That's how it was set up during the original thing. So it just makes sense that it becomes a regional issue, and that would be under the landfill.
And the baler, the carpet baler, what did you say? We have one, we're retrofitting, or?
There's one that I had gotten from Placitas that they gave us in Bernalillo, and that's the one we had been using up, but it was an old one already, and the motor burned out on that. So we still have the new one that we've been sitting on for years since I took over the director position, that we've had, that we got through a grant. But the building where we're now at is a 3-phase, or it's a 1-phase, and it's a 3-phase or whatever, so we need the inverter to convert it from 1-phase to 3-phase. And then we'll be able to use that baler. And I've got a quote from IS Electric, and I'm waiting on Scott to get me that quote, because they took it over to Scott.
So your recommendation is to trash the old baler and convert the new baler?
And use the new one that we have.
A new motor in this old baler?
No, because when I got it from the guys they said they don't really make parts for them anymore. That all the parts were obsolete, so they're like, once it goes, you're just best stop just getting rid of it, because you're not going to find parts for it unless you find an old baler that matches, and then you might be able to get a used part for it. But he said, use it until it dies, and then get rid of it.
And so
from what I understand, the inverter.
Stockpile the cardboard while we're waiting?
Excuse me?
Who's in favor of the inverter? Do you have a place to stop?
I don't have it. I was keeping it in our office with the fire marshal in, and they said we couldn't keep it in the building there where we have it.
So how long is it going to take to get this new baler up and running?
I'm hoping the new fiscal year, once we get into the new fiscal year, we'll be able to buy that motor. If there's a way to get it sooner, I would love to get it going as soon as possible.
Instead of stockpiling and creating an issue, and instead of letting it get contaminated, why not in the interim, we haul all that stuff to the recycling center. That gives them a little bit more income, and we're not losing it. Because if it gets rained on there, then you've lost it.
Then it's no good. And we've been doing that.
So
your efforts, taking it to the recycling center.
Your efforts are admirable in what you're trying to do, and so in the interim, I think that you should be moving all that stuff over there, and that'll help out A little bit.
That's what we're doing, just to keep them kind of a little bit happy, giving them a little bit of a product, that they could, see, we were giving it all to them, and they still wanted us to give them a big amount of money after we were giving them all our recycling, or most of that, except, except our metal. But now that we're taking our cardboard and we're doing that, they don't have it. But we've been taking it to them the last 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
And we'll continue doing that until we can get our machine.
Showing that we're being good neighbors.
Great job, Robert. Just to circle back real quick on that landfill thing, though, I think all of Commissioner Fanbar's suggestions are right on. Making it regional, they've got the reserves, but also it's critical for them to operate with flexibility to the markets. I think that's really an important point that you can make to the board. And thank you.
I have it down. All right, well, if you'd like to bring it back for an actual vote, then we can do that with the stipulations.
In my opinion, I think they could do a better job at the recycling center. Not to put anybody down, but I really didn't have the mentality of my guys. My guys really have into recycling, and they trying to do the best, and I know maybe not, but I can see it being run better than what it is.
And I think that should be part of the stipulation to join take on, for the board to take on. And
It's been 3-4 people to watch it, and I have one guy that's basically doing it. My driver's help out, or the one guy that's picking up any transfer station and still bailing and still taking to the recycling center, and that's one person as opposed to 4. With 4 people, that place should be running awesome.
It's definitely something the community wants, and it's something we can't let go.
And I stand corrected, we do get about $2,500 in interest that goes into different funds, but again, if we were to do the same investment that we're doing here, there we'd see a substantial increase in interest. And also adding it gives us more leverage to go after these grants, because we're doing it as a board, as a regional board. So.
Yeah, because I showed a picture of our cardboard bales to the recycling coalition, and they love it. She really likes our beer pond, we like those bales. So, you'll be having vendors fighting for your product, and they continue being this good, which is our goal, to keep it, the best product that we can actually produce out there.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Item 12B, discussion of the proposed franchise agreement with Comcast.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I met with a representative of Comcast Cable recently, and we are going to be submitting a franchise agreement for adoption at the next commission meeting. Wanted you to have the opportunity to comment on it before it's up for adoption. We did hand it off to also Mr. Rennick for his review and input, and he has reviewed it. Also, I'll just pause now to let Mr. Rennick comment on the franchise agreement.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've reviewed this draft. I've not had a chance to go over it with Mr. Jaramillo yet. I'll be glad, odds and ends of comments on it. Nothing especially serious. The parts that are of most interest to this commission would be the fees and the term. And would be bending my marker as also the services that are included. They probably need a little bit better definition. For example, internet is not included in this.
And they do run the internet as a separate. They don't run the internet as a separate division, as I was told.
But it would be within this franchise, would it not? As opposed to a separate franchise agreement?
I can't remember the explanation on it, but well.
It's the type of thing that needs clarification.
Yeah, I think we really have to And we only see about 14,000 a year currently, and it's currently, what, 3%? That's the max we can go?
We could go up to 5%, but if we go up to 5%, then it's going to pass that cost on to the consumer. So I'd recommend keeping it at the 3%.
And, Madam Chair, and Mr. Rodriguez, correct me if I'm wrong, but this really only affects people in Cañon, San Prado, Ranchitos, Ranchos, and that's pretty much it for our county, right?
Correct. Because
That's why it's not very much.
you might remember 2-3 years ago, Comcast scaled down your delivery. So, for example, now that we deliver cable to Quest up in Yosco, and this commission was upset about that a few years ago, and we wrote them a letter saying we don't like that idea. That we did come into the presentation as well, that we had to scale back because the cost of delivery to the outlying areas was too great for them. So, me and Mr. Rennick will continue to work with them and work with Comcast Cable. So, if you have any comments, the next day or two would be the appropriate time to give it to us so we can finalize it next week, and we'll have it on the agenda for June 17th for approval. Comcast Cable representative will be here at that meeting as well.
The only question, and I know it's dying, but they do have channels for local programs. And the town kind of ceased Channel 2 years ago. So I would like to know what channels are available for local programming, and if there would be a way we could cable cast the commission meetings or put up calendars of events, because we did lose a designated channel that we have the right to have under these cable franchise agreements. So if you could look into that and the viability of that, and if we could stream the meetings over to their channel, things like that are viable. Yes.
Chair, again, it reaches a very small number of our constituents. And the last thing I'd like to say is I'm not in favor of raising it from 3 to 5 because they're just going to pass it on to the consumer, and then we're taking more money out of their pockets. So that little amount that it provides us is not enough. So if it's $14,000 out, 3%, it would be just over $20,000. That's not enough to burden our citizens. Thank you.
I know it's a small market, but if there is a channel and that channel is cable cast to all town and county residents, it is worth exploring instead of having a black channel that should be someone's channel under the SEC rules. So,
I think that we can check the what's called PEG services, public educational government. We can check with the town's franchise agreement on that. Answer your questions about that and see what can be done.
perhaps UNM would want to run that channel. Just a thought. All right, thank you. Moving on to 13, update the county commission on various items affecting Taos County or county manager Camille.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll step here. Don't have too much for today. Yesterday, myself, Ramon Pacheco, and Commissioner O'Donnell did go to a meeting in Santa Fe at District 5's offices. This was regarding the call for projects from Secretary Sandoval from New Mexico DOT. There's approximately $8.33 million per road district statewide. And then that gets split between the planning organizations, like we're a member of Northern Pueblos Regional Transportation Company, organization, and there's the one that covers Eagle Nest in that area. And so our planning organization is going to get 1.67 million. They've asked us to prioritize our projects for final submission, which is on June 12th. And the projects that we did submit for is the ADA walkway at the rest area for the gorge, Blueberry Hill Road, New Mexico 150 Leo's Road, up in District 4, West Rim Road, and then also, upper and lower San Juan as well. So we got to finalize our numbers and our presentation and our documents, and we can turn that in. And we should be awarded in the fall of this year. We didn't receive any funding. They didn't really have too many hard questions for us. It was an interesting process, and I don't know if Commissioner Azan wants to comment on that.
She doesn't. She thought you did a good job.
And so the other thing that we were asked by Kit Carson Electric was to provide a proclamation. So on their annual meeting, which is this Saturday, June 8th, they're having their 75th anniversary. So they asked us to make a proclamation, and so Anissa is working on that, and we'll deliver that proclamation. If anybody wants to read it, please let me know. If not, I'll go and present it. I want to make sure the commissioners have the opportunity first to present.
I will not be. My son is.
All right, I could possibly read it unless you want to.
Yeah, I was planning on attending, so it doesn't matter if you want to read it. I know you always attend as well. We could do it together. Also going to meet with Beta Engineering this coming week regarding La Morada Road and La Morada, sorry about that. So we need to get those projects out the door, so that way we can take advantage of the construction season. And that's all I have right now. It's time for any questions.
So, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, sorry. Commissioners, with regards to Morado Road, the reason I have taken such a deep interest in that particular road is because that particular dog leg of that road behind Morada itself is about 5 feet on the little grave sites, the graveyard to the cemetery. And so, been asked for many years now by the penitentes y hermanos in Morada to see if the county could, in fact, straighten out that road and realign it. There's probably about 4 grave sites under the road at this point.
Commissioner, it's tough to get a fire truck through there.
Yes, yeah.
Extremely tough.
Yeah. So, really appreciate the county moving forward on that particular one.
Madam Chair, Mr. Martinez also has an item to share with the commission.
If I may, Madam Chair, members of the commission, we brought in this morning up here that we had our middle schoolers paint. It looks amazing, it looks awesome out there. So I just brought it out so you guys can see, but here's some photos of it. You guys can, I did not, but that's Ms. Christine Autumn, middle school class. So they did painted out one of our bins as I park it out here so that people can see it, they can see it and be proud of their artwork. It looks awesome.
Next time, call Commissioner Brown, she gets some good action photos.
Yeah, I want to do it
For
in
her
there.
personal Facebook page.
Well, by sending it to Cody, I'll follow up with just photos.
Yeah.
Maybe not a story, just photos.
Just photos, just the
And
kids
with
be on
Christine
there.
on them, what grade? You know?
It's just different classes, it's one of the classes, I don't know what the
From the
grades are,
middle
but
school.
it's in middle school.
Really cool.
Yeah, so it'll be out there all day, so if you guys want, you guys get out here and, we'll take a look at it. Check it out.
It looks like you even got the paint donated.
The paint on the painted by your face and that.
That's one thing. You guys doing that?
Where,
Even try to paint donated by
Front door where I had the
Oh, nice.
Christmas tree recycling, that's where the truck and the bin is. So if you guys go out, please go look at it, it looks awesome, the kids did a really good job on that.
Always appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you.
right, item 14, new business to be considered at a future commission meeting. I would just like to see if our attorney could research franchise fee for Kit Carson Electric. I've been told we are not allowed to have a franchise fee, but I would like to get a confirmation on that. The electric company.
I didn't quite.
Whether we do not have a current franchise fee with Kit Carson Electric, and I would like to see if we are allowed to do so.
Wouldn't they just pass that on to the consumers who are raising all of our electric bills?
Well, I would still like to know, I've been told we can't. I would like to know if that's allowed.
We can certainly provide you an answer with that, whether it's a fee-based matter or it just governs conditions of use. It might be of interest to the commission. Be glad to do it.
All right, thank you. Commissioners' announcements. The only announcement I have is I went on the weed tour that our Taos County Weed Management Group did all day, and we do have a serious weed problem. And as you see around town, the white top, the weeds all over that have just sprung up, unless you control them almost on a 2-week basis. They recommend plowing in the spring, not plowing but mowing. And if you don't stay on it, you're going to see more of an infestation all over. You can see it in the fields, Cunningham property, Perovich Field, in our senior center, kind of road right away. And what they recommend, which is really disheartening, is like for what we have now, to mow it, and if you can, bag it. You can't wait till the fall to mow it, but then it's got to be mowed every 2 weeks for 7 years to control this infestation of this noxious weed. And we, talked about Russian thistle or herbicides, but it is a serious problem. We did a tour site of various locations and how to get rid of, certain noxious weeds. So I just think it's going to be a very difficult battle to control. All right. Item 15. Taos County Board of Commissioners may convene in closed session. A, discussion regarding AFSCME Council 18, Taos County Public Employees Local 1193 and 2911. This matter may be discussed pursuant to Open Meetings Act exemption 1015-1H5, which allows for discussion of bargaining strategy preliminary to collective bargaining negotiations in executive session, and Mr. Attorney, is it your recommendation to go into executive session?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we go into closed session under the exemption that you read in the agenda.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes.
Madam Chair, for the record, Commissioners, I need to leave
All right, motion to come back from
Motion to
executive
come back
session.
into regular session.
Come back in regular session.
All right, please call.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes, could you please give us a report on executive session?
Madam Chair, the only items discussed in the executive session were those that are on the call. No action was taken.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to accept the
Oh,
report.
motion to accept the report from the attorney.
Second to accept the report from the attorney.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Donnell?
Yes, and we are adjourned at